All right. Very good. All right. Hi, everybody. I am Dennis Stoica. We are live with another podcast. And once again, we have a very, very special guest. We have Avi Nardia here with us today. Who is Avi? So, Avi is a owner of the Academy for Kapop, Krav Maga. They do a lot of stuff within the academy. He's got online work. He does extensive travel for all around the world, U.S., Europe, all abroad for teaching courses, camps. Also, whether that's his Krav, his Kapop, his firearms and shooting courses, things of that nature. So it was very important for me, especially for the first 12 months, to make sure that when I do these podcasts once a month, that we bring in someone that's very special, very like-minded, does what we do, right? Very good friends. They're doing this stuff worldwide like we are too, whether that's reality-based self-defense, adding in grappling, striking, firearms and shooting, performance coaching, yoga, you name it, right? So, Avi, thank you so much for being here. Greatly, greatly appreciate you. Is there anything else that you'd like to add about your own background, number one? And then if you could go into what's your purpose, maybe passion and principles, things that stand behind you and who you are.
What I'm gonna say to you might be surprised, but I said let's start with it that I'm a failure, and most of people try to show themselves as a success, but and I think that this is the most scary part for people. And if you see everyone try to be, I'm number one, I'm better than anyone, and I say to my students, no, I'm a failure. I failed so many times that I'm
Mm-hmm.
not afraid to do mistakes, and I'm not afraid to fail. And I read by a friend of mine that he also wrote that when you look back about all your fails and you collect them by the years, and then you see a big victory, because it's more important to come out from fail. Some people did all the way to win,
Mm-hmm.
and some people don't have it. They're born with one hand. They're born with no hands, and those people had to work much harder. And
Mm-hmm.
actually we get into the biggest thing in martial art that is more important than to be talent is to be devoted and to come for training and everything. So I see one of my principle is to fail my student. I fail them no matter where they come from. They can come from Delta Force. I will make drills that they will fail. And the people that are afraid to fail, they still have a lot to study.
Yep.
I don't mean that you wish to fail, but by failing and study, you're actually gaining your experience and your knowledge. What is experience? Is to do mistakes and stay alive.
Yep.
Like you've been FBI, so you know it. You getting shot, you have no idea why you didn't get shot because the two guys around you they get shot. But then you understand that maybe you did something that they didn't, and that's kept you alive. And now you can create a system,
Mm-hmm.
something that you say, look, I survived thanks to that. And that's how we gain
Yep.
experience. So, like many time people, there's also a saying that reputation is what people think that you are, but character is who you are
Who you are.
real.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people, mostly martial art, I fell into it maybe when I'm young, and the more I'm getting old, I'm
Mm-hmm.
actually proud to be failed because when we're young, we want to win, we don't want to fail.
Mm-hmm.
But when you look back and you think, the fail is actually a good teacher. So one of the other principles that I teach is actually I'm teaching Zen, when martial art is one of my tools,
Mm-hmm.
and this is why my school to martial art and my patient is not to teach and create the new gladiator, because you will not be able to see. Look, even in UFC fighters, they're good for a few years, and then you see them,
And then they're done, right? Yeah, they peak,
yeah,
and
and then you can see,
because it's a sport, right?
yeah, of course, because it's based only on athletic. But when you
Yeah.
see teachers like Master Danny Santo, and you see that in age 80, he's still on the mat, he's
Yep.
still coming, he's still
So
practice.
that's what I wanted to ask you too, right? So for everybody too, what I'm hearing, right? I'm in my young 50s. I'll be 53 here shortly, and I train hard every day with my students. They need to see me out there. I need to be eating my own dog shit, we call it, right? And so, and look, I hope, like in the circle of life, when I train someone and maybe they're with me 10 years, 15 years, 5 years, whatever, right? I want them to eventually surpass me as I get older, right?
Of
That's
course.
what we do, right? That's what we do.
Of course. I got students that actually their teachers died,
Yeah.
and the teacher died really. His muscles fell with the years, and he find himself like in a wheelchair, but he kept teaching to the last day. For
Hmm.
me, he's a sensei. For me, he's a winner.
Hmm.
And a
Yeah.
guy with the muscles, we have a lot to study more. And we can see it every day in the martial art that people do not really get the point of martial art, mostly because of unfortunately MMA is good, but without giving
Hmm.
the moral and the ethic and the
Hmm.
culture, it became like trash talk and bad examples. What is a martial art
I think
today?
some of the UFC has turned into that. I don't watch a whole lot of UFC anymore myself, but we've seen, I think, more of that trash talking and develop
Yeah.
over the years. So, anything else you want to add in on who you are, or purpose, passion, principles? I mean, it sounds like, hey, you are a lifelong student and teacher at heart that's going to continue to teach. I mean, you mentioned Dan O'San, as long as you can, right? I say die young, as old as possible, right? And so
Yeah.
die young, as old as possible. We want to keep on doing what we're doing to stay on that mat as long as we can.
I'm hitting my 60s. I'm at 60. I'm now crossing over 60s, and I still roll with my students.
Yep.
Uh, and I don't care. Some of my students, they're faster than me, but they
Hmm.
also will ask for my advice. I give them directions.
Hmm.
Some of the moves, I just tear some part in my knee, and I still on
Yeah.
the mat. It's no matter. That's the important thing, I think, is just to come and train.
So I tell everybody too. I don't care whether we're going to get ahead, but maybe some of the questions here, right? But no matter how old you are, no matter what kind of community you are, like law enforcement, women, overweight, needing to lose weight, right? I just need you to give your best. I just ask people, and
Exactly.
whatever your best is all we ask for in the gym. So
Exactly.
moving on to the next question: what is the academy, Kapop, Krav Maga, etc.? So how do you explain what your business is to somebody?
I came to the market when I left actually the service and I moved to
Mhm.
live in the US. And there were a lot of schools of martial art, like more like McDojo. And I
Mhm.
felt nothing in common. And a lot of them sell the name Krav Maga and they claim that this is the system of the Israeli army, but none of them was serving in the Israeli army. And for me, as the ex-major, they claim that I'm a fraud. I'm coming from the Israeli army. I was military cadet since I'm 14 years old, and you study in the Army Cadet, self-defense or call it Krav Maga or
Mhm.
whatever name. And then you move to the US, and people that buy a license in a 1 week course, they will call you in forums and whatever, and lynching you, and mostly in the cyber world,
Mhm.
you can destroy person, and they did it. They tried to destroy me, but what happened is that I worked with my legs and I stepped on any mat that I could and create my name. So people see the true, and then they claim I was never in the army, but then they see me in the army. They see me with uniform. So
Yeah.
slowly, the lies go. Why I changed the name from Kapop is because when I start Kapop in 2000, there was only one school of Kapap, my school. There was only one website in the internet, my school. And
Mhm.
today there's like mushrooms, thousands of Kapap that I don't know where they find it because I invented the name using old name that nobody used. Nobody used.
Yeah.
So I renewed the name to give a memorial to the old teachers that actually died. And I mentioned
Mhm.
them in all my books, in many of my articles. And I said that there was historical martial art called Kapat in Israel, and we actually renewed this system. That's why we call it the modern. And I met with the head instructor just before he died, and I gave him my book, my DVD, and he smiled and he said, "This is 10 times better, but you need also to understand that you cannot go now 20 years back or 50 years back and say this is better because for that time that was the best, and things change because everything is evolved."
Sure.
So
Sure.
with the time I decide that I call my academy Avi Nardia Academy, and this is umbrella to anything that I do. I did a lot of things. I explore a lot of things. We just did deep in ice training, but we did it in survival. We make hole in the ice and
Yeah.
you dive in and study to rescue yourself. But now everyone put it under this name or that name. But to do snow training, I studied in Japan almost for 8 years and
Mhm.
7 years, and it was normal to do those kind of training.
Yeah, so we train like that too. We go out in the cold in the wintertime here,
Yeah.
right? And I encourage people. I take a cold shower every day. There's not a day that goes by that I don't take a cold shower. Every now and then I take some ice baths, right? So these are just good, healthy things that people do, right? That maybe someone gets lucky with marketing because there's people
Yeah,
out
you go
there,
to
right?
Estonia, you go to Estonia and Finland, you will see people making
Do
the
it all the
ice a
time.
hole and they
Yeah,
dip themselves and run into the sauna, and it's a
yeah,
very normal thing. And also in
cool.
Japan, it's a normal thing. And the seasonal
Mhm.
training, like the fall time, the
Sure.
winter, the summer, the autumn, all of those are normal training
Yeah,
that at least 4 times a year, a Japanese dojo will take you outdoor to
outside.
do outdoor
Yeah,
training.
yeah. All right, for time, I got to push the interview a little bit. Always do. Okay, we got 10 questions in 30 minutes. Quick coffee talk. I love to keep it that way to keep people interested and flowing here. Why should someone consider your Krav Maga training, that Kapop Krav Maga training, right? And then adding in maybe other things. So, I'm guessing, and I don't want to put words in your mouth. I mean, is your business, your school, number one reality based self defense still, and then you add in good grappling and striking and maybe other things that firearms and shooting because that's reality too, and then maybe you do Japanese sword fighting because you love it, it's traditional. Tell us about that.
Okay, there's a few things. One of the
Mhm.
top, or from the first guys, they took the name Reality Base. He visit my school in Israel, and it was funny because he see my students, and he said, "Oh, this is nonsense. That ground fight, like BJJ." And at
Mhm.
least it was not BJJ. It was more like Newaza Judo because at that time I was
Yep.
not involved with really BJJ. Only when I
BJJ.
moved to
Sure.
the US and studied with Machado family. But the guy, I told my students, give him a gi, and we bring him a new gi, and then I tell my students, give him a black belt. And it was very embarrassing because when the guy wanted to put the belt, he put it from the back to the front,
To the
and I
front.
say, oh God, you even don't know to tie a belt, and he talks so much trash.
Sure.
And he could not grapple with the white belt. And this is how but then he talk like, oh, you need to know. Listen, talk is another thing. I challenge myself. I will talk to many black belt in BJJ. It's no problem. I will maybe inspiring with a good kickboxer, Thai boxer. They will not defeat me, but in the sparring they will lead. My idea is not to be the best in any field, because if
Yeah.
I wanted to be the best judoka, I can't do nothing other than judo.
But Judoko.
Yeah.
Yep.
And if I teach reality based, I must be good in anything. Good, not the best. It's two different
Mhm.
things.
Yeah.
And the guy that is the best in judo, he has no time to do BJJ. He has no time to do
Yeah.
shooting. He has no.
Yep.
The
100%.
reality base is a panorama. Why I put fencing as COVID, for example. Now it's a great tool. Even one of my guys in the US now, he started to teach
Mhm.
saber and everything. Plus, it's a part of the combat. You fight with a long distance, and it teach you a lot of things. It teach you with
Mhm.
a sword, fight with a distance of a sword.
Yeah.
With a gun, fight with a distance of a gun, and it teach you
Yep.
so many things that one day I read that since the first gun was invented, the katana, the Japanese sword, lost the
Mhm.
value, and it's not true. As educational tool, it's the
So I think
most
it
important.
also depends where we live, right? And so, what kind of weapons do people use in the reality of, someone losing their mind, getting upset, starting a fight, pulling out the gun, pulling out a knife, pulling out a machete, right? Depending where you live.
But when you deal with a Japanese sword, it's like you're driving a semi-trailer, and then you move to a mini minor, which is a knife, to a
Yeah.
small
Yeah.
car.
Yeah.
And as a swordman, I can see for many knife people coming from different knife system, immediately their sickness, because when they move
Mhm.
the knife, I can see that the knife crossing, and That's it.
Sure.
You tap here, and the guy
Hey, so
cannot.
I'm gonna jump in here too. Do you have some techniques in your Krav or the Kapop that you teach, right? That are against the sword too? Because I defend off
Yeah,
the knife, we defend off the machete, which is larger, right? I mean, so the
yep.
sword is more like baseball bat. We defend off baseball bat and large stick. So at the end of the day, it really doesn't matter what's in there, right? It's angle of attack and what the length of the weapon is, and a lot of the same
I took
defenses
a
can be
Japanese
used.
sword. I took a Japanese sword and I put my students on the knees and
Mhm.
start to do BJJ, and then they start to understand the
Yeah.
kimura, and like all of those hand locks. Is
Mhm.
when I grab, you cannot draw your sword actually, because you want to draw your sword, and
Mhm.
I take you to arm bars, and suddenly they start to move to omoplata
Yeah.
when I'm holding my sword and you put omoplata and
Sure.
things, and it was really interesting to see the connection.
Yeah. So I want to come back to the original piece of the question too. Why should someone consider training what you're doing? And what I refer to it as your some like what you just said. That's my bit. Modern Warriors is integrated warrior training, right? So integrated meaning it's the same thing. You don't need to be winning, the IBJF whatever, right? Jiu-jitsu awards and stuff, right? Or be the guy who wins the UFC championship. That's not what I do, right? I'm training the average person, moms and dads and IT people and doctors and military and cops and investigators, you name it, right? Anybody and everybody that comes in and wants to learn reality-based self-defense, how to defend from a gun, the knife, ground survival to get up, right? With the gun and the knife too, that we add in there, and the striking and adding in good fitness and shooting. And we still do grappling and striking. So components that we believe that make sense, right? And number one, reality-based survival. And then just thinking that, still learning some good grappling and striking, learn how to shoot a firearm still, right? And to be functionally fit, again, die young, as old as possible. So what I'm hearing is that even your business is the same. So why does someone come? Why does someone want to learn from your business from Avi?
I will say a few things. I encourage safety in training. I encourage no bullying training by the instructor. You will see a lot of muscular, trainers, and they claiming that everyone is a fraud and they're doing the right technique. Then he grabbed the students and he showed that, yeah, but show me that you can teach it to a 55
Mm.
kilo student and she
Yeah.
can do it. And now I know that your technique is good.
So I have
So,
some instructor. I'm sorry to jump in here again, right?
yeah,
I have some instructor friends too. And look, it depends. The way I look at this too, who's your clientele? If I only want to train Delta Force or the Navy SEALs, then cool, go hard. They already know how to shoot. You can day one, you can shoot out of the car, right? But my clients too, right, they haven't had 20 some years in military or law enforcement or whatever, right? They're the average person that wants to learn how to defend themselves. And I think you do a little bit of both. Sometimes you have some specialty courses and stuff, but
of course,
mhm.
if I work with professional, it's different. I just
Yeah.
back from Angola, and I work with a big academy in Angola
Mhm.
for I don't know how many even people are teaching around, but it's totally different. The average person, I always tell to my student, you are a teacher to the normal. We teach self-defense to normal people.
Yep.
It means if you want to be a UFC fighter,
Yep.
my
Different.
academy is not for you.
Same thing here.
But
Yep.
it's like if you want to put your son to study to drive, or your wife, you send
Mhm.
to my school. I teach to drive, but it's not for Formula One drivers. Okay,
Yeah.
this is very unique. This
Yep.
has its own risk. But when you come to those academies like family, a mother can train with a kid, father can
Mhm.
train with the family can train, and it will be safe. Nobody
Mhm.
will go home without the eye, without a
Yep.
finger, with a broken bones.
So
And
that's
this
how
is why,
I look at it this way too. And we talked just before we came on, right? It's about building people, and you said it's
of
about
course,
failure. So
building.
no matter where
The
you're at,
rest,
right? Whether you've been training a student with me 10 years or a student with you 10 years or a student 6 months, it's still about pushing them and getting them to fail and being uncomfortable, and so they can grow, right? So they can grow. Cool.
the principle is also not to fail them all the way to
Yep.
depress. It's to fail you to move to the next step.
Yeah.
So all the time you go out from a training with the advice, with what missing, what you need to do.
Yeah.
But the idea that sometimes I see reality based, the instructor is some kind of a bear, like a. But
Yeah.
when you get challenged by a black belt BJJ, you escape like a rabbit. You understand? But when it comes to five housewife and some IT people, he's a great bully. But when he
Sure.
get challenged, the same instructor, he's a macho man. So if
Gotcha.
you are macho and you don't talk shit, step to
Well,
them
and,
and
and
then
and that's not the
show
person
yourself.
that you or me want in our dojo either. That would
No,
be training with.
no.
That's not the person, right?
Right.
So it's not how it
Look,
works.
in my young age, I had a lot of sin. Now my sins are different, but not these ones.
I got you.
I think that with the age we grow up and we see our
Of course.
mistakes. When I was young, I want to develop gladiator. I want to come to competition. My students will murder everyone, and
Yeah.
I'll be like, "That's my students."
So in my earlier days of running, I'm year 14, 15. I think we just started year 15 running my part-time business here too, right? And I can say that we went harder earlier, and not, with probably like everybody. Now it's like it's more selective. If the student's ready and they're willing to go harder, then we'll go harder, right? But you have to, everyone has to be ready for that too. So let's move on. Um, what do you do for fitness yourself to keep in shape? What do you promote maybe to students within the dojo, or any of your courses that you go to? I don't know if that's anything specific, or some people just train. I know a lot of BJJ guys that say, "Hey, no, we don't touch weights, we don't do anything, we just train." So, what's your mentality?
Um, Two things. First, I agree with them because I believe in specific fitness. So if I'm
Hmm.
going to shoot guns, I want to have those movements
Movements.
strong. Maybe I do
Yep.
it with 5 kilo, just to get the motion, just to get. I will not do different things that will not help me
Hmm.
in a combat.
Yeah.
For example, when I start BJJ, I invest a lot of time about study gymnastica because BJJ have involved and biogymnastica, gymnastica natural. It's basically yoga, movement,
Hmm.
fitness, some kind of a mix that today you can find people like Alvaro Romano teaching that, and Hickson Gracie used to do
There's a
the
there, there's a ton of people. I think it's become
doing
more popular in the BJJ world as of late,
yes,
right? Maybe the last
but
5 years, where they're adding in yoga and breath work.
I
I've
agree,
done yoga and breath work my whole life. We add it. This is part of who I am and what we do in my
but
gym.
again, I have students that got involved with it when I
Mhm.
first exposed them, and they went too much into the fitness. Me
Yeah,
personally, I don't have any problem with it, but I will tell you, oh, you want more like this, you have to go to Dennis, because I stayed in all the moves that are only connected to the
yeah.
combat. I'm not interested to.
And,
It's a
and and
combat.
and we do the same thing. So like the fitness that we do, it's either body weight exercises or it's sandbags, kettlebells, the small implements with rotation. So just like I rotate off my back foot to
Yeah,
punch, we're gonna rotate with sandbags and everything. So in my warm ups with running, we do lunges, right? Because you're gonna
I
lunge to
also
throw a
call it
jab. Yeah.
I also call it the cheating system because if you go to the gym and you do this, that's the muscle, and you just do this. But the biceps work, but you need the same for the. And I prefer to cheat, because also when I punch with my shoulder, with my hip, with my leg.
Yep.
It's not only this move. So doing only this will not.
Avi,
So
that makes you look pretty, Avi.
no,
So yeah. So
it's
no,
because
my point is, I'm sorry. My
plus,
point is like,
another principle that I have, and I tell you, when I was young, I tried to break the record in Guinness in push-up. And
yeah,
every day, I mean, I remember myself doing push-up like 1,000 in a row. And one
wow,
day I stopped because I understand that I cannot do it all my life.
yeah.
And if it's better that you do every day 20 push-ups than you do it for like 2 years and then you
Yep.
never do it again.
Well,
And you
again, so
feel
that's overwhelming yourself, right? So you're doing something that you can't continue, right? So we just said
no,
too,
you must.
we want to be able to make sure that we're training appropriately, that when we're 90, we can still be training, right? Yeah,
Yes. So don't because also I will never do Ironman. I will never kill my
yeah,
body for no need. I mean, I respect those
yeah.
people, but they have issues. I'm sorry.
All right.
Uh,
We're running. Time always runs away on me, so I'm going to kind of combine a couple questions here. What advice do you have for? You can pick any community, either the beginner, women, military, police, people that are out of shape, or the experienced person. Maybe pick a couple of those people. Do you have any advice for the brand new beginner? I'll throw it out.
every training need to be safe. every training must be fun. When you go home, you're not nervous. You're not mad about this guy that almost
Mm-hmm.
broke your hand, and this guy give you a good feeling.
Yep.
And when I recommend people to go to the gym or to the dojo, talk to the teacher, see that your expectation and what you do, they're match. So
Safe
like
environment that
you,
it's a match. Yep.
yes. So safe environment is no matter if you're professional or not, because it's very easy to injury in any sport.
Mm-hmm.
So safety is the most. I see people doing gun disarming with a loaded gun, and I think they're not. They never been instructor actually officially. You know that if you've been in FBI, no instructor in FBI, no instructor in Secret Service or
No,
Army will
no,
ever allow this.
we never
And
use a
then
real
they put
gun.
it this special force. That no, those people
Yeah.
they are
Yeah, you can go
monsters.
harder eventually by using uh, different tools, but we don't use real guns, right? You can use
No.
simunition guns
Yep.
and things of that nature,
There's
but yeah.
enough tools to
Yeah.
test it.
How about someone that's out of shape? How do you work with someone? So personally, I mean, hey, come in, by doing what we do, we hopefully will lose weight and eat better and talk. And so, any advice to anyone that's out of shape?
Yes, do the first step. Go to a good teacher.
Yep.
Feel the teacher. See that the teacher follow you and not
Hmm.
his ideas.
Yep.
I went to do yoga and I said to the teacher, "No, thank you," and I turn around. I mean, I will not be flexible like her. So when she started to say, I said, "Listen, I'm not going to be flexible in one day. And if you push
Nope.
like that, I will injure myself."
Yeah.
And in yoga, there's more injuries than in martial art, by the way. So I think that the teacher should never push beyond your limits.
Yep.
That, but he should push you,
Challenge, but don't
challenge.
push behind limits. Yep. Yep.
That you can come back and you can do the training.
Yeah. All right. Then, so last piece. Then, what would any advice that you would have for that experienced person, maybe in some other martial art, traditional martial art, right, to kind of try out that reality-based self-defense, or maybe I just do karate and I haven't done any BJJ. So, what do you have for that experienced person that just hasn't worked
I
within?
would say that my advice to any martial artist that achieve the good advice. Let's say in judo we used to laugh. We said that the coach stand like this, and next year they change. They stand like that. So if you come to a point in judo that you're a good judoka, go and explore BJJ. If you're
Yeah.
good in BJJ, go explore karate.
Mm-hmm.
And never say about something that is not good unless you
Try it.
self try it.
Yep. So that's try
So
it.
people say, "Oh, this system is a nonsense." I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Go feel
Try
it,
it.
then you can talk.
So I tell all my students too, I'm like, hey, go train with somebody else. Go take a course. Go you come to Northern Virginia, go train with Avi, right? I mean, if you can do it, please,
Yeah.
learn to see what else is out there. Fill your cup, right?
You know what?
Come with an
If
empty
you,
cup and fill your cup, and then decide what you like, don't like, and go ahead, Avi.
my dream was to live in a boat. So there's
Yeah.
two days, happy days in a boat owner.
The
The day
first day
that
you
you
buy
buy
it,
it
the day
and
you
the day
sell it.
that you sell it. And I tell teacher, when
Yeah.
I close my dojo, I'm so happy
Yeah.
because suddenly I get my freedom. Because
Sure.
I committed to my students, snow, storm,
Yeah.
I'm
Me
there.
too. No, I do that now too,
They
right?
are the whole excuse.
Yeah.
And you know what is the best thing is when you close your school and then they start calling you, "Oh, but I want to." And
Yeah.
then when they go to other teachers, they cry and they're coming back to me and says, "Oh, I'm missing those days or this."
Sure.
And this is why, as a teacher, I always say to my students, go train with them, try,
Mhm.
because I know that they would just respect me
Yeah.
more.
All right, I'm gonna miss one question we have here. But I got three that we're gonna run through quick because we're approaching the half hour mark, right? So, who has or does inspire you?
My students, my mother, my wife, my son, and any people that I meet sometime even in a flight in the street,
Sure.
and the guy has nothing to do with martial art, but he's doing very cool thing. I give you
Mhm.
example. A cat fall into accident, and she came to my door because sometimes I give her food, but she knew to come and ask for help.
Mhm.
And now she's in hospital. And suddenly I see so many people. I live in Serbia. People make $500 a month, and one woman give $300 just to send the cat for MRI. And Monday she go to surgery. We'll collect
It's
six hundred
inspiring.
dollars.
Yeah, it's
Of course,
inspiring.
this is inspiring. Of course.
Mhm.
So you don't need to be in martial art. People that inspire you can be in any
Sure.
field, can be writers, musicians, but they go with their own truth.
People doing good things every day, no matter where you're at.
I can tell you who do not inspire me.
Who doesn't?
Politicians.
Who? Politicians?
Politicians.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I
Army
hear you.
commander inspire me, of course.
Sure. From your
Some of them
background.
not, but I
Yeah.
had great also inspiration from army.
Yeah. Some politicians can be inspiring, but but
None of
I
them,
would say the most,
none of them
especially
can
the United
inspire
States,
me.
we have a quagmire in DC sometimes, right? So last two questions, right? And I always throw in some fun questions to finish, and I had to give you these two. If you could have any superhero power, what would it be?
Definitely not Star Trek and not Superman.
Yeah.
Like my cat, I think I amazed by how small she is, like 2 kilo, and she's not afraid. And if you mess with her, she run behind you and attack and escape. So I
Mm-hmm.
think that
Mm-hmm.
nature is my superhero. I study
Nature.
so
Yeah.
much from the nature.
Sure. And I know you love cats, so you had a lot of
I love
cats
animals,
pose.
not only cats.
Say
I
what?
actually, I actually didn't like cats until
Yeah.
that cat come into my life, and
So that's
she
both of
teach
us,
me.
me too. And my girlfriend Sheila has 3 cats, so I've learned to live and have to love cats. It's all good. Last question. This is a fun one for me. Who wins in the octagon? A 6 foot tall, 600 pound silverback gorilla, just huge, right? Or a 10 foot tall, 1,500 pound Kodiak bear? They're in the octagon. Go.
Uh, I always laugh about this, and I said, like the guy that smuggler a gun into the octagon,
The
he's
guy
gonna
that
win.
smuggles the gun into the
So
octagon?
if you expect to win
Mm,
in a fair fight, your tactic is suck. So the guy that is going to win is the guy that have the strongest power, spirit, I will say.
spirit, will, mental
I
toughness.
remember when Kimo and Hoist Gracie fight, and you could see
Yeah.
it's not a guy that you want to fight. And you see that when Hoist finished the fight, he was not there anymore because the guy was a beast. And I say that it's more important for me develop spirit. I mean, most of people they stuck in the body. Some
Mm,
of them move from the body to the mind. But you ask me about fitness. Sometimes I teach even like units like Delta Force level, Special
mm,
Forces, and I'm 60 years old. And I get tired. And I say to them, I can see you, how you cannot do it. And I take the gun and I run like I'm 20, and they're all impressed. But when I go to the hotel, I'm dead. but but you see, it's my spirit. It's
yeah.
not me. It's a muscle memory
So
and my spirit.
that's in addition to our, or part of our integrated training is performance coaching, and part of
But
that
this is why
performance coaching is,
the cold water, and to go
yeah, it helps push
push
mentally. It's
spirit,
not that's help that's
breathing,
mental toughness, emotional
yeah,
resiliency, right?
four on four breathing,
Yeah.
different systems of breathing, yes.
Yeah. We do that all good stuff. So, hey, Avi, I
And
want to thank
when
you.
we
Yeah.
just to complete something, we say eat the elephant slowly. Don't.
One
And
bite at a
this is
time.
yeah, one bite
One
at a
bite at a
time. This
time.
is my advice to anybody that training. If you want to train until age
Mhm.
80, one
Yeah.
bite at a time.
All right, Avi, we're out of time. We're at about 35 minutes in. If you want to tell everyone how they can reach you, give your website out, Facebook, or anything else like that, go ahead right
They
now.
can run my name, avinardia.com.
Yep.
That's my website. We have a blog that I write a lot,
Mhm.
a lot of articles. Normally, I don't write my articles about me. I already try to take a professional subject
Mhm.
and to talk about this, like how close is close. If I talk
Yeah.
about firearm, different things. So just
Mhm.
look for avinardia.com
Awesome.
and
Very
write
good.
me.
All right. Well, hey, I want to thank everyone for listening in today. Having Avi here, thank you, Avi. I greatly appreciate you. Maybe we'll have you on another day because there was a couple questions I didn't even get to. So great conversation. We could go more in depth on some things too. I'm going to ask you to just stay on for just a second afterwards or so if you can give me another couple of minutes. But I want to thank everyone for being here. You know the drill, right? Visit us on Facebook and YouTube. Visit our website. Share it with your friends, right? Share this also among social media, this podcast as well. We look forward to seeing you in the future at some type of event. Until then, train hard, train smart, train safe, train real, and train for life. Take care, everybody. Thanks, Avi.
Thank you a lot.